Charlie Kirk cooks full who says tampons are DEI.
Mr. Simple, you've said some very nasty things about me online, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. Simple question, Simple Black Theory. What do you think about blind hiring? Are you for blind hiring?
No.
No. So why not? Because blind hiring, for those who don't know, is based on merit, where you don't
it's
look.
not.
So what's blind hiring?
Blind hiring would be that you do not put the race actually when you submit for, you don't even see the person when you interview them for a job.
No. That's one part of blind hiring. There's
Okay,
multiple
so-
ways to do blind hiring. But at the end of the day, blind hiring is exactly not knowing the person's race, age, or gender. That's based on merit. Like you said, you want merit, correct?
Well, hold on. Those things can factor into merit as well. For example, if I'm trying to hire for an Amazon warehouse worker, and all of a sudden I find out that they're at 69 with 1 year left from retirement and the age is not disclosed, wouldn't I prefer to have a 24-year-old man than a 69-year-old woman who's overweight?
You're moving the goalpost. Let's bring it back here.
No, I'm
the
not.
whole point was about blind hiring,
No,
right?
you said race, sex, and age
Right.
is not incorporated.
Correct.
I think you should have a full picture of a human being is when you hire them.
So you care about diversity.
No, actually, I don't.
Why? Because that's basically merit. You're focusing solely on merit. You said you want
No.
meritocracy.
Just to be clear, if diversity happens naturally through meritocracy, great. If all of a sudden we have
That's
people
DEI.
that, well, no, it's not. DEI is by force.
So let me
DEI
explain that.
No.
Go ahead.
I got to interject.
Go ahead.
DEI is that we are going to forcibly make an institution more colorful.
Right.
We're going to forcibly make an institution more black. Where if all of a sudden, if half of Texas A&M was black because it was all on merit, praise God, that's an amazing thing. It doesn't matter. If all of a sudden, for example, if the NBA is 75% black because it's on merit, great, terrific. If the NFL is half black because on merit, we don't want to force race. We want excellence and meritocracy over race in every possible circumstance.
Right, yeah, my turn. Okay, so let's get...
Meritocracy-wise, why are all the black players, all right, dominating these sports in basketball and football, but the coaches are not representing that at all, and the ownership is not representing that at all. Although some of the black coaches are some of the most successful coaches of all time, like Mike Tomlinson, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, or Tomlin, not Sin. Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, why are there not more black coaches? Why?
Let's get into the NBA, for instance, right? Can we both agree at one point black people weren't allowed into the NBA? And then they allowed them to be in NBA. Wouldn't that be considered diversity? Wouldn't that be DEI in itself?
No. It's actually the opposite. You're
How
mistaken,
so?
my friend. It's actually, we're getting rid of any racial stereotyping. What happened was actually a form. No, DEI is racial stereotyping.
So
what actually was before was a form of white preference DEI, which is white supremacy or whatever. And then we got rid of it. We said, we're not going to discriminate it. And the quality of play got better. Do you guys see the difference between the two? You see, it's very important. Well, no, actually, I'm talking to both you and the crowd, right?
Actually, the NBA is a really good example of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Also, Jackie Robinson in the MLB, because with DEI principles, it would be removing barriers to hiring based off things like race. So, like we saw, for example, white people back then said that white people are great at basketball, white people are great at football, white people are great at baseball, and if black people could play, they would. Obviously suck. I mean, come on, white people are superior in these ways, and black people. Like we would never want to play with them. They were scared to integrate, and white men were scared to be embarrassed by black athletes as well. But then you have, DEI, and you say, well, guys, we're going to do forced integration. So now we need to have black players in the league as well. You see the NBA be dominated by black players. You see NFL end up being dominated by black players in certain positions. You see the MLB get a lot of players from around the world. A lot of countries in like Central America have some of the best NBA players of all time, or from different nations that were never pulled from before, that are going to be people of color. So DEI in those environments did remove barriers to hiring to make sure we had everyone have an equal playing field from all communities to get into these sports. But they were making the same arguments about, like, okay, why are 90% of Fortune 500 CEOs white men? Why are 90% of Fortune 500 CEOs white men? Is it because white men are the only people that deserve to be CEOs? Are white men just that good at being CEOs that they make up 90% of the Fortune 500 companies?
I'm talking to both, right? So what ended up, what you want is you actually want to bring back a form of how Major League Baseball and the NBA used to work before we desegregated.
So we can agree that Executive Order 11246 is what basically brought in DEI, correct?
I think that might be it.
Right.
Is that the affirmative action one? I don't know.
No, it's not the affirmative action. It's for DEI. So within that executive order, where does it say that they're solely focused on making people get into jobs? For instance, like United Airlines, right? You mentioned that, well, let's pause that. I'm gonna get to here. So for an example of DEI is basically your daughter, right? She decides to get a job, right? And unfortunately, it's that time of the month. She goes into the bathroom. Calm down, calm down, calm down. She goes into the bathroom. Stop. She's going into the bathroom.
You're losing the audience, man.
I don't care. I'm talking to you. So she goes into the bathroom, right? And she goes into the bathroom and gets a tampon or a pad that's been given from the job. That is DEI. That is literally, yes. Yeah. You don't know. That's great. So if you don't know, DEI.
By the way, women having tampons in the bathroom, that was not always there at all. That did come largely from DEI initiatives, with companies needing to accommodate people from different backgrounds. So women in this example. If you talk about people with disabilities, maybe providing accommodations to hire people who have disabilities. Okay, so yeah, tampons, they're laughing about this, which conservatives do a lot. They're laughing about something that's a very basic fact. You know, companies before, they did not care about giving women tampons. I promise.
Interrupt me so he can win. Go ahead. You want to do that, right? Or be quiet and we can talk. Thank you. So, right. Can I continue? Thank you.
Kick him out. Nice.
All right, so.
Kick him out.
Yes, because in Executive Order 11246, they say that DEI is focusing on a safer environment and a more equitable environment with.
Yeah, honestly, so like in the mid 20th century, mid 1900s, tampons were used widely. Women had to bring their own, and public bathrooms did not provide them. They were only offered on a coin-operated machine basis. But now workplaces and schools began offering free or low-cost pads or tampons in the 90s and 2000s, and this was this was like here and there depending on which organizations decided to do it. In the 2010s and 2020s, driven by, like, there were equity movements. These were called equity movements, menstrual equity movements, which conservatives would hate. These movements demanded institutions provide free tampons and pads in restrooms as a DEI and health equity measure, so that women who go through periods, which is something they suffer through that men don't suffer through, could have more accommodations for more equal opportunity. Okay, for a more equal workplace with more removed barriers for them. Like, tampons is actually a really good example of a DEI policy that came from an actual social justice movement pinned on equity. Like, conservatives hate facts. I'm telling you.
Within the workplace and the hiring process. Let's look at Google. Google actually does DEI. You know how they do DEI? Give me an example. Do you know Google's DEI? I'm pretty sure you don't.
And they shouldn't, of course not.
What is their DEI initiative?
I actually don't know the specifics because I don't know every company's specifics. However, let me ask you a question. When you're hiring somebody, would you rather hire someone that's
here? Someone in the comments just said, "Why are women entitled to men paying for their pads and tampons if they're so independent?" See, exactly. So, like, why are men forced to pay for women to have tampons? In my opinion, it's okay. I'm okay with helping pay for tampons in bathrooms because I want women to feel comfortable. Women go through something men don't go through. And if men disregard that, men are being little babies who don't care about merit at all. Men are just having a better time because of, for default. I know some men act like they have cycles, but going through a period can do a lot to, like, women athletes and women in many different sectors. A lot happens to your body during a period, especially if you don't have birth control to help suppress it. Periods can be pretty bad for a lot of women. Why should I have to pay for it? We don't need to. Like, I don't, there's no argument like, I don't think there's an argument like we need to. It's not a human right, but I think it is right to do, and it's good for us. It's good for us to do, and that's one example of equity that I would say is a very beneficial thing. Women should probably have tampons and stuff and have access to them in the workplace. It creates a better work environment, a better collaborative environment, and it removes barriers for success and merit.
That's black or someone that there is excellent.
So that's what we're talking about. That's not what DEI is.
Please drop a like on the stream. Please drop a like on the stream. Hit subscribe. We have 400 viewers, only 16 likes. I know many of you hate me, but please drop a like. If you're watching back on YouTube, drop a like and subscribe. I have very bad ratios on my videos. A lot of dislikes, not a lot of likes. Please drop a like.
Actually, it is. So let me prove it to you. As I said, according to the Student for Fair Admission Supreme Court case, black students were able to get into Harvard with
affirmative action,
which
not
is
DEI.
Affirmative action.
Time out.
Time out. You're getting too worked up here, man. Okay. Time out. Affirmative action is DEI in practice. You see,
Wasn't it-
DEI is a theory.
Wasn't it struck down by Supreme Court?
Yes, and they
Okay,
still ignore
so
it.
why are you bringing it up?
Because they're still ignoring it,
So
my friend.
let's focus on my question I asked
but
you that
hold
you're
on.
moving.
Let's get
Go
back to the core macro tenet, which I think is very important.
Correct.
Which is, wouldn't you prefer a country built on excellence and merit,
That is
not
what
one
DEI does.
based on forced pigmentation diversity? Why does somebody's skin color matter? No,
help
tell me,
out.
what differences do you as a black man and me as a white man have, and why does it matter?
Okay, so
Why does it matter?
So let's look at, because again, you don't understand what DEI is, and you're trying to put it into one stance, which is not. So, thank you.
The battle between good and evil.
Nice.
Right? So,
I mean, I have an idea of what President Trump signed, correct? But
Wait,
because
executive-
he got rid of that executive
right,
order.
right. And in that executive order, it says, literally, y'all can Google it too. It says that DEI focuses on both the workplace and hiring.
Oh,
now,
got it. So does it
now
focus
let
on
me
diversity?
explain. Now let me explain the
Does it
DEI
have the word
initiative.
diversity?
Yes. But
We
can
should
I-
not have any forced diversity, period. End of
It's
story.
not forced diversity. It does not say forced diversity,
does
and
it
I'll
say?
put money on that too.
But does it say diversity?
It says diversity, yes.
Well, then it's forced
but it's
diversity.
not forced diversity.
Then what is it? It's a
Where does it-
suggestion?
So
So the law says, for example, if someone has a disability but they can do a job well, they should have a chance to be hired by an organization, or we should probably hire those who have disabilities to our organization. We don't want to miss we don't want to miss good candidates because of them having a disability, or because we don't like their gender or race, or whatever it might be. Okay, so diversity to that point is removing barriers to make sure we have accessibility, accommodations, all that kind of stuff. Equity is about like fair treatment, access, opportunities. Can we give our applications out to as many communities as possible? Are we giving opportunities only to certain groups? So if we only give our job applications to the richest, whitest suburb, and we have no black applicants, that might be an issue. Like, why don't we have any black applicants? Is it because black people cannot do the job? Or is it because our organization is not doing good outreach? We don't need to give black people the job just because they're black, obviously. That is affirmative action, and that's actually not affirmative action. But affirmative action does take that into account to like boost someone's resume for hiring, for many different complicated reasons, which I'm not going to get into right now. But affirmative action is different from DEI, and just providing equal treatment, access, and opportunities. I will keep that mess up in my video for YouTube, by the way. I'm not going to hide from my mess ups. I misspoke. Inclusion is just about people feeling welcomed and valued. Okay, so some people take that to a more radical end. Some people have a very, radical perspective of like microaggression training, and some people just say like, "Hey, dude, don't be a dick." So DEI does not inherently mean racial quotas or affirmative action. Now, if you say affirmative action branches off of DEI, then you would need to say, okay, in which instances is something affirmative action versus DEI? Because DEI is a key part of the civil rights movement and civil rights law from the 1960s and LBJ. All right, that entire movement, DEI is a big part of that. Now, affirmative action, you could say it spawned from it, but if you take away affirmative action, you can still have DEI. All right, so you can still have DEI without affirmative action, but you cannot have affirmative action without DEI. So that is true, but again, it's one aspect that you could say is not fair. But DEI in general is still a good thing. You can say something like DEI is nuanced. There's some parts I like, some parts I don't like, and you could say, okay, this part seems discriminatory, which is what the Supreme Court case was on. You can agree or disagree, but you could say this part of it is not good. But there are still pretty distinct things when we're talking about equal opportunity employment versus quotas. Okay, big difference there.
correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm lying. Does it say forced diversity in the executive order?
But it has the word diversity.
Does it say forced diversity
Okay,
in
but
the
I don't
executive
even
order?
let me
know.
get this straight. Executive order with the word diversity.
Can I give you an
Would that
example of
not be
DI initiative?
forced
Then?
diversity?
Let me give you an example of DI initiative so
okay.
you have a better understanding.
That was my phone ringing.
So let's look at Google, right? Google's one of the hardest companies to actually get into. In fact, I believe there's a 0.2% chance that you actually get the job, right? They actually run a DI initiative. Their DI initiative is called a hiring committee, where they have a diverse group of people that
Terrible
have been
idea.
working on
Awful.
How? So you're telling me Google sucks?
Google actually is, honestly.
So y'all using Bing,
honestly,
y'all using Bing.
honestly,
Y'all using
ChatGPT is
Bing.
way better than
Stop.
Google recently. I don't know about you guys. No, but honestly, to your point though.
Google, I mean, YouTube is by far the best platform for online content, and it has been for decades, pretty much. I guess the DEI ruined that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Truth Social and Rumble are...
So Google has lost its competitive edge in a lot of ways the last
How?
10 years. Hold on a second. Again, Google does a lot right, but hold on. Google has lost the social media war. Google tried to launch a Facebook competitor, an Instagram competitor, failed. They tried to also launch a Zoom and
Let's
Skype
focus
competitor.
on the conversation.
Failed.
That has no proof.
Oh crap, Google could not compete and completely overtake every market in every single industry. Crap, they couldn't become a full monopoly. By the way, Google Voice is used a lot, Google Meets is used a lot, Google Drive is used a lot, YouTube. It's just a dumb point.
Google's market cap. Google's market cap.
And all of these big tech companies, all of the big tech companies use DEI. Like, Facebook only doesn't because they sell our data and they manipulate kids into killing themselves to make profits. And Facebook wants to pay off Trump and get in Trump's good graces, so Trump doesn't hold them accountable for it. So they do DEI, anti-DEI policies to suck up to Trump so they can get favors from him. But even Facebook did all the DEI policies on their meteoric rise to the top.
Cap, otherwise known as Alphabet, has actually missed expectations over the last 2 years versus Netflix, Amazon, and Apple and Microsoft. In fact, there was a prediction 10 years ago that Google would be the first $3 trillion company.
Right.
Turns out that it was actually Microsoft that was the first $3 trillion company. Now, of course, Alphabet is a very good company in a lot of different ways, but if your argument right now is like, well, because one of the biggest companies on the planet has embraced a bad idea, what is your argument exactly?
They're still one of the best companies in the world.
Not because of that, because they were built by merit and it's being destroyed by diversity.
And they use
Microsoft literally has a huge page about global diversity and inclusion. Like, there's literally so much on Microsoft's website right now about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like, it's actually one of their key points about their public outreach. It's like, okay, dude. Yeah, DEI ruins companies. Yeah.
DEI to get that merit. Listen, if they're hiring people, yes, it makes sense. If you're doing a hiring process and you have a hiring committee that is DEI and they're hiring the people that's making the company as great as we just said, your argument is that DEI takes away merit.
It does.
But if we see that Google is doing well and they're using DEI, how the hell are you saying that DEI is not making merit?
First of all, Google has not had this hiring committee around since its inception.
They have. Not since its inception, but they had it for a while. And the people in the committee are people who's been there for a while, which is very diverse.
Apple, their board just voted to keep DEI. Their entire shareholder vote just voted to keep DEI practices as well. So literally the most successful companies in American history.
Secondly, you have not answered this fundamental question, though.
Go ahead.
Which is, can you tell me when an organization gets forcibly more diverse, it gets better?
Google.
Again, I just proved to you. Google. Okay.
I just gave you Google.
Again.
They use DEI. Not only are they one of the best companies. Oh, yeah, I hate that argument. Great.
I mean, again, it's just, they're fine. I'm not going to like totally kind of crap on Google. But like more importantly and more.
Also, the question Charlie Kirk likes to pose, which is really hard to answer because it's a really dumb question, is how did this company get better because of DEI? Even on the margins, like, it can improve and not make a huge company-wide systemic shift, right? So you can have DEI make a better, healthier workplace and a work-life balance, or welcome more people from different backgrounds who are very skilled, and it can like not change the trajectory of your entire company. But Charlie Kirk's claim is the real claim he's making. We don't claim DEI is going to make companies excel to the moon because they did DEI, and DEI is going to lead a company to being the most profitable company of all time, the most innovative because they do diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're just saying that DEI is probably a good thing to do. It invites the best and brightest from every single community. It removes barriers for disadvantaged groups or minority groups, or whatever group has any barriers. It makes sure we hire people from different backgrounds and we don't just block out people based off their immutable characteristics, and it can just like be decent for your company's culture. It doesn't need to be a huge economic gain, but Kirk is saying, Charlie Kirk makes the case that DEI is collapsing the entirety of Western civilization, all right? And he cannot even make a case of a company that had issues about DEI, caused by DEI, other than conservatives getting offended. Literally, Charlie Kirk's entire argument is, I think it's bad because I'm offended by it. I think it's bad because I'm offended by it. That's the entire argument, because Charlie Kirk would never be able to answer that question turned back on him.
More broadly, I do think you have to answer the question,
So
why does skin color matter at all in hiring? Answer that question. Why does skin...
The point is, and he's going to say it, the point is skin color should not matter, but for years and years and years and years, it has mattered, which is why 80% of managers or 70% of managers are still straight white men, and 90% of CEOs are still straight white men. Like the people that earn the most in our society by far are straight white men. It should not matter. But when it comes to the proportions of income and wealth and merit, there are groups in America that don't get hired based on many characteristics they cannot control about themselves.
Skin color matter.
So if we look at basketball, because you love talking about that, right? Can we both agree that at one point there was no black athletes, and then what happened? They diversified.
We got rid of forced segregation, which is a form of DEI.
And that diversified.
Oh, Charlie Kirk is going to say that forced segregation is a form of DEI. Forced segregation is a form of diversity. Forced segregation is an example of equity. Forced segregation is an example of inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So those principles are done by forced segregation. Wow, Charlie Kirk supporters. You guys don't gotta be dumb weenies. You don't gotta be stupid little weenie hut junior brats. Come to the bright side. It's gotta be tiring to make no sense all the time. And to be ruled by complete emotion. Just being pampered brats. It's gotta get tiring. He just said that segregation was caused by diversity. Segregation was caused by equity and inclusion. Like, come on, guys. Don't be this much of a pushover.
The basketball,
because
right?
it was based on merit.
Was it diversified?
Yes, but not
Thank
by force.
you
No, hold on a second.
very much.
Hold on, but if your argument is that if you want to make things more merit-based, then let's do it.
It is more
No,
merit-based.
hold on a
They
second.
made it diversifying. They diversified
Man.
basketball, bringing black people who are good in it.
Nothing you're
making
saying.
it diverse.
Nothing you're saying is making any sense.
Oh, okay, I bet.
Because what they did.
Of course
is
you don't.
The NBA went to pure merit, pure excellence. Are you good at this? That's all they cared about. In the
They
NBA
allowed black people in, right?
Exactly, because prior.
Okay, then.
Hold on. Because you know what they had prior was a form of racial stereotyping. And you want more racial stereotyping. Your worldview is indecipherable from the KKK.
Racial stereotype. He's going to say it's not different from the KKK, bro. Oh, give me a break. A lot of DEI goes to white people, by the way, from rural America, a lot of veterans, a lot of people who have disabilities. Like, a lot of white people benefit from DEI programs. A lot of white women as well, white women especially, but white men too. But yeah, it's the same as the KKK. Yeah, the KKK, all right, the KKK were fully in line with Black Lives Matter. The KKK were fully in line with diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's their argument. The KKK said, we want more diversity, dude.
KK. So what you want, it's indecipherable because you are race obsessed. I am not race obsessed.
No, you
talk
are,
about
though.
the race.
You
talk
are,
about race
though.
more than the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Right.
Because
I'm
you.
the Grand Wizard of the KKK.
Well, think about it.
Right. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I said your
Yeah.
worldview. Think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're around talking about race all the time. I'm talking about character. Which of
You
us?
talk about race all the time. You literally said DEI is based on race when it's not.
Because
It's
I'm
DEIA
explaining- I'm
with accessibility.
Man, you're getting
Meaning-
really upset.
My bad,
You
you're
should
right,
take
because
a
you keep
pause.
lying. For instance, right? I've been trying to say this. DEI, one part of DEI.
Okay, I'm pausing a lot. I know I pause a lot. Yeah, I'm sad. I'm sorry. I'm sad. I'm sorry for making you sad. I am sad. I am pathetic. But also, like, remember, Charlie Kirk and all these individuals back here, they are very pampered in America. They have not gone through much. A lot of frat boys, all right, sorority girls from very privileged campuses. They've never gone through anything. So when you talk about, like, issues in America, these guys are going to laugh at you, all right? The big game here when doing public appearances with Charlie Kirk is to care about the people watching, all right? The people that the propaganda here can reach. People that do go through things in life. People that do want the best for their neighbors. People who truly are not racist at their core. Maybe they have some stereotypes and maybe some bad biases, but we have to reach the people that they're trying to reach with their propaganda, all right? So when they act all smug and whatever, just remember, they don't go through anything. Gear your messaging towards the person watching both of you talk. You want to be the person that comes out on top based on your moral fortitude, based off your facts, based off the vision of the future you want to sell, based off the way you carry yourself, all right? Don't pay attention to these really smug weenies, all right? These weenies don't know much about the world. But there are people that do, and we have to make sure that Charlie Kirk and his propaganda machine do not ruin this country. We have to go reach out to people who are not currently involved. There's no point trying to debate. We're not going to debate Charlie Kirk out of his position, all right? It's all a performance for the people watching, and you want to reach them.
DEI is literally giving women tampons or pads at work. Oh, yeah, you're laughing because you don't know that.
Giving
Listen,
women
Charlie-
tampons is a form of DEI.
Yes.
Yeah, it 100% literally, explicitly came from DEI programs and equity movements because men did not want to pay for women to have tampons. I promise you, men did not want to buy women tampons. Men bosses did not want to buy women tampons. Women had to pay out of vending machines. They had to pay a couple quarters, which was a lot of money back then. They had to bring their own tampons tampons and pads in the bathroom are 100%, all right, a barrier being removed for a minority group, okay? You can say women, okay? It's being removed for this group that has periods, okay, and menstrual cycles. Men, all right? Men do not. Women do. Men did not want to give women that thing to remove that barrier or issue that women might have because they have to buy pads and bring them to work and remember them and all that kind of shit. If a woman starts her period at work, she might be screwed. Men did not want to do that. Men did not want to do that. It literally is DEI. It's DEI. And they're laughing at it. You're laughing? You're laughing. Really?
Yes, it is. You know why? Let me explain. Yeah, y'all know. I got you. I'm about to explain to you guys. So basically what happens is, the reason why we have DEI is the fact that in a job location, right, they want to hire more people diverse. So what these initiatives, these goals, these aspirations that they're doing is trying to bring more people in. For instance, like if, what's that store? Trader Joe's, right? They let people sit down while they bring stuff in. They help disability. That's DEI. That helps disabled people get a job at Trader Joe's. But what you're telling me is that we are not allowed to tell people that for like onboarding. Onboarding in itself is also DEI. When they explain to you sexual harassment, when they do all these things, when they make it more a safer place, that is DEI. And what you're saying is that the workplace shouldn't be safe. What you're saying is that more companies should have discrimination lawsuits.
Let's get back
That's what DEI
let's
stops.
get back.
Discrimination lawsuits.
DEI is racial quotas. End of story.
Give me one racial
United
quota. Give me one.
Airlines.
I Googled that.
So
go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh,
I Googled it.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So
go ahead, continue.
What did United Airlines announce? Because you know what I said about black pilots. What did they announce when it came to pilots? And why should skin color matter when you board an airplane?
So just to remind everybody, it's Charlie Kirk's idea. He basically, stop talking. So Charlie Kirk basically.
Ooh, that's very misogynist. That's not very DEI of you.
All right, let me finish cooking. So, right. So, can I finish? So,
I'm not going to say anything about race, but it is funny that the one time I see someone who's like black on here and like showing some type of emotion and he's getting shouted down by the entire crowd. I haven't seen any other speakers here get shouted down by the crowd and encouraged by Kirk. I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying it's a race thing. I'm not saying that, but it is.
Charlie Kirk said that they're basically hiring women of color to make 40 or 50%, right? But when you actually look into it, what happens is...
Women and people of color.
Right, women and people of color. What happens is they're creating a program that's allowing women to train to become pilots. If you actually look at the requirements for these programs, it's nothing different than any other program that trains pilots. But you told people that they're just hiring women when that's not true.
First of all, I never said that.
Yes, you did. I did a video on it, guy.
Yes, I know what I said. Secondly, when you hire based on race and not on excellence, you end up compromising the standards of excellence.
They're not.
So that statement right there, when you hire based on race and not excellence, you end up compromising excellence. So when you say DEI, it's like, okay, if there's a pool of pilots and we have black pilots, white pilots, and black pilots are like 5% and white pilots are 95%, and we only hire 1% black pilots, why are we having a gap there when it comes to qualified black pilots and qualified white pilots? Why are there so many white pilots hired when we don't really hire other pilots? And you'll say like, okay, well, what barriers are there? Why are there no black people applying to fly United Airlines? We have to do outreach to make sure we have black pilots because, you know, it seems like a barrier to employment from a group that we don't currently have. We probably want to pull from that group, probably for corporate reasons and also for skill reasons, for sure. And you're pulling from a group of people that is all people who have skills, that are very skilled, that qualify for the job. Okay. The idea that they're going to pull from someone like, oh, this black guy can't fly a plane to save his life. He's actually double blind. He's actually completely blind. He has two left hands, and he's able to. He only can see through sonar. He can only see through like a Neuralink cameras on his if that would be an issue, right? If that really was happening, putting unprepared people in these positions, but that's not happening at all. And the people that think it is happening, or they say it's happening, it does sound like they feel black pilots just, if they get the job, it needs to be DEI. There's no way in hell a black pilot would be able to fly a plane and not crash it instantly. Like, come on, he's probably listening to rap music up there. He's going to go too crazy and just forget he's even flying. Like, that's what they think when they say, like, oh, DEI pilots. It's not a real concern. It is And I don't like framing everything in racism. All right, I don't do that. I'm against the microaggression training, the consultant fees they do. I'd rather just say like this guy's being a dick, and let's talk about the real direct racism where we can find it. I don't bring up race for every conversation like some people do on the left. But this is 100% fueled by racial animosity and believing that black people are just incapable, unable, whatever the words are, to do anything. That requires responsibility. Whereas I would say, for example, if there's a black pilot, I know he worked his ass off. being someone in the professional world, for a black person to get into like to a C-suite position, they got to work their asses off, bro. Usually when I meet people who are like, from other backgrounds, they get the job because they had a parent who works there, or they have a friend's parent who has a parent who has connections. Yeah. Usually a black person in those positions have to work their ass off much more than others did.
Allow me to finish without interrupting you.
All right, go ahead.
When you hire based on race and not on excellence, you end up compromising excellence to be able to pursue race. We know this with Harvard, University of California. We know this with major companies. We know this with the government. Exactly. DEI, that is affirmative action is DEI philosophy in practice.
Already. You're bringing old
DEI philosophy in practice.
My statement. They are actively defying the Supreme Court decision, or they are contorting their policies to try to fit their own DEI agenda. But let me ask you a question. If you were to board a United Airlines,
I didn't get to finish. Go ahead.
If you were to board a flight with United Airlines, would you rather have a pilot that is qualified or one that is diverse? Answer the question.
Wait, that makes no sense. Why is there two different things? How is it different? When you go to American Airlines...
Because in the pursuit of diversity, you sacrifice excellence every time.
Yeah, so that question alone, okay, again, I don't bring race in every conversation. I try to avoid it because I talk to a lot of people who would get mad about race issues, so I try to ease them into these conversations. But this question alone is 100%, like, I don't like using these words because the right wing has ruined them, but it's white supremacy. It is. There's no way to tie together excellence and diversity. You can do either diversity or excellence. Would you rather your pilot be a good pilot or a diverse pilot? Huh? Would you rather your pilot be a good pilot or a diverse pilot? Good or diverse? And you could say, why not both? And Charlie Kirk says, well, if you want diversity, you inherently are going to trade excellence. All right. He's just making the argument implicitly that if you do diversity, you're going to have less excellence. Ignoring the facts, ignoring everything else. It's 100% relying on people to shut their brains off and focus 100% on the racial biases. Whether they are actively hateful towards black people or other minority groups, or if they have some type of bias within themselves that makes them think that black guy cannot fly a plane. A black guy flying a plane? Are you kidding me? He's definitely not qualified. He's a DEI hire. Because they call politicians DEI hires who are elected by their representatives as well, or elected by their constituents as well. 100% just a white supremacist talking point.
We know this with Harvard. Right. We know this with Yale. We know this with the military. Right. Every time, every example that we pursue diversity, an institution becomes less excellent.
So
it becomes subpar.
When you go on a plane, do you go to the pilot and ask for their credentials, or do you believe that the airline did the right thing and hired the right? So you ask for their credentials.
Actually,
you don't.
I'm starting
you don't.
to. Hold on. I start to doubt it. That was my statement. That was my statement.
Right.
My statement was if you're going to go from 4% of the pilots being black to 50% of the pilots to be black, it begs the question: you are going to lower the standards.
So my
you're going
question
to put a square peg through a round hole. You are going to force something that naturally is not happening, and you will all of a sudden be playing a very treacherous and dangerous game when you board a plane. When I get heart surgery or if I board a plane, I don't care about the color of the skin of the person doing it.
Right.
The actual facts about this, and by the way, if you don't care about the color of their skin, you would not even have this conversation. If that were true, Charlie Kirk would not even have this conversation. Okay, he would not have this conversation if he did not care about the race of the person. He does care about the race. He believes the race makes them inferior. Okay, this is the answer to what Charlie Kirk is saying. But all available data shows us that, in fact, white pilots have a higher rate of accident than non-white pilots. But the facts don't matter here. It's all about racial bias and emotion.
I want excellence, and I want meritocracy.
Yes. So, stop talking. Are you talking? So, right, let's get back to because you're talking a lot.
Final point, then I'll get to the next question.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so again, going back to what you said, because like I said earlier ago, you said, and I forgot this was ISU, you basically said that that women are being hired to become pilots, right? Now, first, that's a lie. That's based on a program. Second, correct me if I'm wrong, becoming a pilot is based on skill, correct? It's not based on height. It's not based on physicality. It's not based on nothing. It's based on skill, meaning
Not
that
always.
if you're being, so what is it based on?
Because based on a now public lawsuit with the Department of Transportation in 2016, 2017, air traffic controllers and pilot standards were lowered in pursuit of diversity
true. I
goals.
looked at that too.
Because of over
They
15.
added more
Let me
shit.
finish. Because of 15
The standards were changed because of a low supply of air traffic controllers, and this happened under Donald J. Trump's administration. The rules were literally changed under Trump's admin. All right, the DEI rules were adjusted, and by the way, the air traffic controllers under Trump were talking about hiring more black air traffic controllers, not to do it in the name of diversity or in the name of just like we need to fulfill our quotas, but because they lacked air traffic controllers, and they said, hey, if we can't get air traffic controllers, we need to get more of them. How do we reach out? How can we reach out to communities we do not currently get applicants from? So then you might launch an operation that says, hey, we're going to target women to be pilots or air traffic controllers. We're going to target black people to be air traffic controllers. We're going to target Hispanic people. Maybe, by the way, white people, whenever there's an ad with Wrangler jeans and a camo hat, and there's this burly guy, and he's like, I care about supporting our law enforcement. Like they're literally using propaganda on you to recruit you for the military and stuff. So that's an example of like DEI, but they're using it to just say we need more people, more skilled people to fill up this shortage of labor.
whistleblowers that said the standard of air traffic controllers and pilots were being sacrificed in the pursuit of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
You're lying again.
Okay, people can do their own independent research, and they
I've
also...
done it, and you're lying. They actually made it hard.
Well, thank goodness no planes were crashing at that time, and now that Trump killed DEI, planes are crashing again. I guess DEI saved us.
They add more scenarios within the FAA.
Again, everybody
you
here
can Google it right now.
Yeah, okay. Again, the documents bear out exactly. We now have we have air traffic controllers after air traffic controllers have said in the pursuit of making air traffic controlling more diverse, we have then lowered the quality of air traffic controlling.
So at the end of all this, what you basically told me is that if merit matters, it doesn't matter, because when we mentioned blind hiring, you said you're against that, which is based on merit.
Time out. They said that they want to prioritize a group above what is meritocratic.
I didn't say that.
That's what United Airlines said. They said
I'm
half.
so confident.
They
read
said
the
half.
executive order out loud
United
right
Airlines.
now
We're not talking about the
in front of
executive order.
everybody.
Again, they said half
next.
of all their
You got
new
Cook.
hires.
You got Cook.
Again,
Hey.
Let's see. Was there a air traffic controller whistleblower situation? What years? In 2016, 2017. I'll take the phone. If I have over 400 viewers, I'll take a phone call. We have 300. I'll take one phone call. Please drop a like and subscribe. Please donate to Jolah Talks Politics. Really appreciate all the donations. Help me keep the channel going. There were allegations from a whistleblower 2017, 2016, or 2016, 2017. Procedural issues. What actually happened here? Okay. Safety. Whistleblower raises concerns. Safety. Air collision. Notified White House. Changes. New procedures for moving planes from one controller. I don't see. There's nothing on that safety panel being tied to race. Again, Charlie Kirk is lying again, dude. But his audience doesn't care. They really are just pushovers and really pathetic individuals. So it's not like they really care about the facts of it. It's whatever.